Hello, welcome. I'm Alexiana, and as the title suggests, along with the picture, yes, I'm talking about wasps. They are actually very intelligent, which might be quite a shock. They're also obviously nosy, inquisitive, curious, because that's just, just how they are. I'm going to go through a lot of information about them, and it's actually quite interesting, at least I think it is, hopefully you'll agree. So, the queens are killed off by each other in infancy in the nest, and the one left is the next queen. That's sort of how they do it. And some of them can escape, though. Sometimes they can escape the nest and flee rather than getting slaughtered, which they do. And then the queen can go off, and she's survived, and she can start her own nest if she wants to. So once a virgin queen has mated, she is capable of starting her own nest on her own, being as if I'm the queen, Jesus. And she will, of course, build the nursery first, because, that's the most important part when you're starting a nest on your own. And she'll lay some eggs in it. And then as the larva matures, the workers will slowly take over the building. And then she can sort of take a bit more of a back seat. And the workers are mostly male, but there are female wasps out there that are not queens. How you tell the gender by looking at them, I don't know. Maybe it's not possible. It's probably very technical and scientific. But yeah, sometimes females are allowed to live and mature, and should the females breed, the fruits of their labour, so to speak, are quickly killed off, so that they're not, so they're never a threat to the queen and her offspring. And they have some kind of special sense that prevents inbreeding. It's really quite peculiar when you think from our perspective they're just wasps, they're just these little annoying things. But they all look pretty much the same, but somehow they know, and they don't breed with their own family, which is, it's really quite amazing, isn't it? And it makes them quite proper, considering they're only wasps. It makes them quite proper, but they don't breed within their own family, which is amazing. I've said that already, sorry. And there are different roles undertaken in a nest, such as those looking after the young in the nursery, or those who go out and forage for building materials and food, and there are those who stand guard at the hive entrance. And the wasp's diet is very high in sugar. That's why they're so interested in sweet foods and drink, because their bodies metabolize the sugar. That alone is their life source. Very high sugar, concentrated liquid, I guess. That's what nourishes them. That's why they're so into sweets, jam, and soda, that sort of thing, because that's just their lifeblood, if you like. But they only seek it out at a certain time of year. And the workers will often go hungry. I guess that's in favour of feeding the young and the next generation of queens, so that, because their livelihood is more important, I guess, than the workers' own. They sort of sacrifice themselves, if you like. And once a nest has produced a new queen, it's considered mature and will be abandoned. And I don't mean that as in, straight away all the wasps will just go off into yonder and just abandon it, but the nest, I was going to say the wasp will not be reused. The nest will not be reused. The queens, all but the queens will die out as winter draws in, and she hibernates in a specially built pod and should not be disturbed. It's probably quite a scary prospect having a queen hibernating somewhere in your vicinity, but she still shouldn't be disturbed because she's not really a threat. And as I've said, wasps never reuse a nest, so don't worry if you come across an empty one. Only if you find one partially built, then maybe start to bag a lot. And because once a queen comes out of hibernation, she will leave and seek a new place to nest. That's why you shouldn't panic and you should leave her alone. Never disturb the queen when she's hibernating, because if you let her be, when spring comes around or whatever, when they come out of hibernation, she will leave and look for somewhere else to nest, somewhere hopefully far away from where you are. So all will be well. You should never, never, ever block the entrance to an occupied nest. Because remember, the nest is crafted from wood pulp, and so the wasps will have no problems with gnawing holes in numerous other places in order to get out if you block their entrance. And so you can imagine a nightmare situation if it is attached to like the side of a house or something and you block the entrance. They can apparently gnaw through the brick in order to get out. So they would obviously eventually start coming out into the room or whatever, which is a very terrifying prospect. So never, ever, don't ever block the entrance to an occupied nest. You should leave it to the professionals. I'm sure they don't do that either, but call pest control and let them handle it. Just don't put like filler or whatever into the hole, because that's just really, really bad idea. And I think in a way wasps have gained an unfair reputation as nasty. The temperament of the hive is dictated by the queen. So if she is a nasty so-and-so, then it follows that her whole entire nest, because it's all come from her, it's her brood, will be, they'll have the same temperament. They'll be really angry, just real bastards. So it's the queen that dictates their temperament. So some do live up to their reputation as being just, really nasty. I'm just short of words, but you know what, sometimes, the reputation, I'm sure I don't need to say it. And there are others which are not like that. So it's not, it isn't nice, so you shouldn't just tar them all with the same brush. And apparently you can tell by a wasp's face how aggressive it is. Although, personally speaking, I don't know about you, I wouldn't really want to get that close to them to be able to see their face in detail, but apparently you can tell. So, on that note, to sort of an experiment if you like, I'm going to insert 2 photos here, so take a look at these. Did you feel better about one than the other? Might need to have a second look. Perhaps I should have inserted them a second time, just as a reminder. I know, you're so grateful, you're welcome. Well, the one with the more yellow on its face is the more placid one, and the blacker one is the grumpy old sort, and you wouldn't want to get within like a mile of him. And the first time I looked at those photos, assuming that I can now find the exact same photos that I saw when I was accidentally researching all this, then I didn't like looking at the photos, but I liked it even less looking at the second one. I just something about just looking at it. I think that might be before. Was that before? Maybe it was after I read about the face, the colour face thing, where you can tell their temperament. I just looked at the black one and I thought, oh my god, no, he's angry, I just don't want to look at him. So yeah, that's it. The more yellow it has on its face, the more plus it is, and the more black, the more angry. I don't know if they actually feel emotions, but that's perhaps the best way to represent it. Maybe they do, in a way. It seems funny, these little insect wasps. The idea that they can feel emotions, but I'm sure, that comes into it. It's just the only way that we know how to describe that sort of thing. So, yeah. And how somebody figure that out, I don't know. They're just completely bonkers. And there was an experiment conducted, which is even more crazy, where some of the more placid wasps, their faces were painted up to make them blacker, and so they would look like their angrier cousins, if you like. And they were put in, I guess they were put in a tank or something, whatever, with some other wasps, perhaps some other more placid one or something. But once the other group of wasps realised that these guys weren't as aggressive as they looked, they knew they'd been tricked, and they were really angry about it. Which, that was the basis of the experiment, and that's really fascinating to me. That they are just that so highly intelligent that I assume it's just on the looks. I don't know how they see the world. Probably not how we do. But that they can know just, by appearance, each other's moods, if you like. They're just the mood that they're born with, whichever it is. Or perhaps there's a scale, And they can know just by looking. And they can know when it's wrong, They figure out they've been tricked and they're mad about it. Like, it's very human, isn't it? If humans were like that, if you could tell by the colouring, I mean, sort of you can, expressions more than colouring with humans, but, tell by looking at someone that they look like really pissed off or anything, I'm going to avoid them. But if you're around each other for long enough, you realise that maybe they're not as actually angry as they look, and you feel you've been tricked. It's just very human to have the response that they did, this experiment. Excuse me, sorry. It's just so fascinating. And so, yeah, they're highly intelligent creatures. It's amazing. And even though I understand them a great deal more than I used to, this video was still hard to make because wasps absolutely terrify me. It's my worst fear. It's just so crazy. I don't even like to say the word. I don't like to think about them. I don't even like to look at pictures of them. That's why it's so crazy. I can't remember. Why was I looking them up in the first place? I accidentally stumbled across all this when I was... yeah, it's in the garden a few weeks ago. I saw something and I didn't know what it was. It was like... It was either a bee or a wasp, but it was very fat. It wasn't like a bumblebee. It was like really bigger, perhaps slightly longer with it as well, but definitely fatter than any regular bee or wasp. I thought, is it a queen? I wasn't sure, so I tried to look it up, but I couldn't. But I never found a picture that resembled what I'd seen. Because apparently the queen's bees and wasps, it talks about them being longer in the body than regular ones, but not wider. What I'd seen was definitely wider. I wonder if it was too joined together, like mating or something, I don't know, but I don't think they would be mating at that time of year when I saw them, because it wasn't that long ago. So I still don't understand what I saw, but that's how come I came to research all of this. I just actually stumbled across all this and I thought, wow. But it was hard to look at the pictures because there's just some kind of ingrained fear. I didn't grow up with it. I haven't always been scared of them. It's just come about in adulthood. And I've actually never been stung, which I'm grateful for, by either wasps or bees. And I'd like to keep it that way, ideally, for the rest of my life, but they still scare me because they have that power. Perhaps it's partly the reputation as well, you know, they're just, by their reputation, they just sting whenever they feel like it, you know. You don't even have to necessarily do anything, they just be in the wrong place and they're like, you're gonna get it just because I'm mad, and they just sting you or whatever, so. It's probably not that at all, but that's sort of how it seems, so I keep my distance just for safety reasons, so. Whenever I see one, my automatic response is to scream and run away, like a little girl. So that's pretty much what I do. And sometimes, because of the way they are, perhaps something about you, they're just fascinated by it. They follow, which makes it worse. I scream and run away, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, come back, where are you going?" And they follow behind for a little while. It's terrifying. I don't know why the fear is so bad. Perhaps some of you share it, perhaps you don't. People have different fears. Some people are crazy scared of spiders and they don't bother me at all. But wasps, yeah. But they seem to like me, which I suppose I'm grateful for, because it's better than them not liking me and stinging me at every opportunity. My poor boy gets that, my youngest son. He's 12 now, and he's been stung at least twice in his life. Different wasps on different occasions. So there's always something about him that they don't like. Or those two that stung him were just particularly grumpy bastards, and they're like, God, you know, like I said before, you're going to get it, and they just stung him just because, you know, why not? But yeah, I'm getting off track. I was going to say something else, but I might have forgotten what it was. And this video is getting quite long. I apologise for that. I don't like long videos, but it's all relevant and hopefully interesting. Yeah, I know what I was saying. They seem to like me. I don't know how they see the world. I kind of wish I do. You know, I want to know how their eyes work or whatever, because they just keep being attracted to my room. Perhaps it's a mental thing, but that's what I think they seem to be attracted to it. One day, a few weeks ago, all the windows in the upstairs of the house, apart from the one in my bedroom, were open. And a wasp found its way in, and of course, it ended up in my room. The only one without the window open. I mean, come on. I came in and it was out the window trying to get out. And the window was closed, so like, how it got in here, I mean, I just give up sometimes, I really do. And I don't like having my window open in the summer because they seem to be attracted. And I wish I could have recorded it, but it would be many, many hours and days worth of footage to get a few relevant clips. But they do keep coming up to my window, which is behind the camera here, and, you know, it's been days, over the last couple of weeks, at least, when I've been sitting here during the day, at different times, an odd one just comes up to the outside of the window. And it's more sustained than it's ever been before, you know, just randomly, once in a blue moon, one will fly up to the window like they do and go, donk, oh, okay, and then fly away, but it's more than that. Once one came up to the outside of the window and it hovered there and it like looked at it for a minute and sort of looked around in like various places and then it flew away. I don't know why they're so attracted to this. It's weird, it's like, it's me. And sometimes they don't just fly up to the window, the bit where the window opens, they fly up and they sort of sniff, if you like, they sort of sniff around there and then they go away, and it's almost creepy. There is one experience I had once with them. That was after I'd already been terrified of them for quite a while. I was on holiday and well, we were camping somewhere, and at the campsite there was the toilet block, and one morning I went in there. It was quiet. There was nobody in there. I really needed to pee, so I went into a cubicle, and it was only, I think, when I was pulling my knickers and stuff down before I sat down that I noticed how there was nobody else in there, and also something even creepier, that there was wasps literally everywhere. And I needed to pee so badly, I just thought, I have to go first. I have to go and just pray that it works out. And it was so terrifying. They were like, there was loads on the cubicle door and on the walls, and they were like dropping from the ceiling, like there was wasps up there dropping little wasp bombs down between me and the cubicle door. They were just like, you know, I don't know if they were actually dropping to the floor and hitting the floor, or whether they were actually sort of doing a weird dive bombs or dropping down and then sort of hovering somewhere, but there was that. And it's sort of a little bit of a blur as well. I did pee because I needed to go quite badly, because I just got up, I think, but after that I got out of there as quickly as I could, and I was terrified. I had to open the cubicle door, and at the same time try not to touch any of them. And then I got out. I didn't wash my hands because I was just I was going to get out of there as quickly as I could. But when I got to the main door, I couldn't get out straight away, because I think there was at least one actually on the handle, and they were sort of also in front of it. There was one or two hovering between me and the door, and I was scared to go closer. But eventually, I think they must have moved, and I opened the door. But before I did, again, there was sort of like dive bombing going on between me and the door. It was quite scary. And I got out of there and I ran. It's like, oh my god, I was terrified. But amazingly, I made it out and I didn't get stung. They never touched me. And I think they had taken over the toilets. They were like on the ceiling everywhere and stuff. And they'd like made it their nest. So in a way, I guess I feel privileged to have made it in and out of there, and you know, they didn't touch me. They just like scared the crap out of me, but they didn't hurt me. And as I've said, that makes me feel kind of honoured, privileged, because if you know, that was their nest and that's how they saw it, I was like an invader, and they just let me leave in peace. So that was really nice, but also terrifying. Yes, I'm dressed differently than before. It's taken me this long to realise I just missed out two things. One is something I didn't know before I accidentally came across all this information. Wasps collect water in the summer, and they coat the outside of their nest with it, and that's how they keep the inside of the nest cool. It's quite fascinating, really. And I accidentally realised that because my dad was pressure washing the patio, and one of my sons was helping him, and they said wasps kept coming. They were like interested in the water, and this was like a little while ago when it was like really hot during the summer, and I didn't know why. I think after that I looked it up and I was like, wow, that's why they were interested in the water. They were collecting it to keep the nest cool, which is also kind of scary, because that means there's a possibility that there are wasps nesting somewhere nearby, because I don't know how far they travel from their home to collect water, food, you know, and of all the things that they collect. I don't know how far they travel. Hopefully it's a long way, because that's quite a terrifying prospect that there might be some nesting nearby. And the second thing was a little story, which is hopefully as fascinating to you as it was for me at the time. On the outside edge of the patio window between the glass and the wooden frame, sort of about there, one evening, a long time ago now, a wasp came and it nestled into that space, and I watched it through the glass, fascinated. It curled its wings sort of around its body, and it really sort of pushed itself down into the corner space, and it laid its legs flat, sort of flat against its body, sort of like that. I can't remember which way around it did the legs and the wings. It might have done the wings first, or it might have done any second. And I guess you would liken it to sleeping. I don't know if it was to actually sleep. I know they hibernate during the winter, but that was different. It was just overnight. But that's what it did. It pretty much the wasp version of sleeping. And in the morning, it was still there. And I watched it again through the glass, and it carefully unfolded its wings and, stood up on its legs. I guess it shook itself off, and then off it went. And that was so fascinating. I had to share that, but I forgot yesterday when I recorded this. So, that's it. And as I said, this video is like really long, so I apologise. I think I've made all the points I wanted to make, so I'm going to wind it up. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did, and I also hope you're not as terrified of them as I am, either before this video or after I finished. Sorry, I'm still suffering the tail end of like cold flu, so my nose is a bit stiffly. Stiffly? I'm making up new words again, sorry. Stiffly, it's a combination of stiff and sniffly. I don't know how it affects the nose really. My nose can be stiff, but so yeah, if you have anything to say, any thoughts, please leave them in the comment section, and like if you liked it, and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and I'll see you lovelies again soon. Bye.